So this was a presentation that we gave at Ozri 2015 down in Melbourne, and just locked myself away in the back room here in the Melbourne office to record the video just for those that weren't able to make the conference. Now it's very easy to get up and started with ArcGIS Open Data. I've been helping out a number of the clients in Tasmania and Victoria get up and running, but we have learned some lessons along the way. So I just wanted to squeeze as many of those lessons learned into the following 20 to 25 minutes. So we're not going to really focus on what it can do so much. We'll have a quick look, but I mean, there's lots of sites out there, you can explore them yourself. Okay, so just to start off with the basics, open data is essentially just about getting your data out there. And for us in the GIS community, it's not about the pretty maps that you make, but it's the actual raw data that feeds into those maps. It doesn't have to be spatial data, but if you take a look at the portals such as data.gov.au and data.vic, these are the top 5 downloads on each of them, and the green ones are just clearly spatial data sets, and even the white ones like overseas arrivals and departures, that's those boarding cards you fill in on the plane. You land and arrive at a port across Australia. Each of those are destinations and arrivals, and then you're going to different countries, and those are ports. So it's kind of spatial. And the registered charities, that's address information, could be considered spatial as well. But in short, the people that want your spatial data, if you look at the GovHack winners from last year and this year, most of them have got spatial data in them, and they're doing some really great things with your data. So ArcGIS Open Data, it's free, it's always good. It's available within the ArcGIS Online component of the platform. It's not in Portal for ArcGIS because it needs to be public and outward facing. And it allows you to expose a subset of your data to the public so that they can easily search for data, understand it, chart it out, filter it down, and then download it in a form that's suitable for them. This is a 5-star rating system for open data. It's nothing to do with Ozri. And in short, the more stars you have, the more open your data is. So to convert this into GIS speak, you might have a PDF map that you've got, and you can throw that on one of the portals. And for an end user, it's not so usable. Like it's not machine readable, sort of. It's good as a reference, but that's it. And then you have proprietary formats. So perhaps you upload a file to your database, and arguably there is an API for that, but it's not really considered open. You really need ArcGIS to open that format. Next one up, you might upload a shapefile. That's a format that many GIS people can open up in many different types of GIS applications. Even better, don't even download anything. Provide them a web service like WMS or WFS so they can access it directly in their applications. And then the top one, it's around linking your data to other data to provide a bit of context. And we'll see when you're in ArcGIS Open Data, if you're looking at a data set, it'll show you other data sets in the area or other related data sets of similar nature. So in short, ArcGIS Open Data does meet all 5 stars. So let's just jump in and have a look at ArcGIS Open Data from the perspective of an end user. First off, this site, which I'll embed in the blog post, is just all of the public-facing ArcGIS Open Data sites with the mandates in the States, and over in Europe you can see there's a bit of a dominance over there. But down in our corner of the world, actually over in New Zealand, you can click these and open them up. Auckland, so the bigger the circle, the more data sets they have, but Auckland and Wellington are 2 that are worth checking out, just to see how they've set things up. Launceston was our first one in Australia. We've got Hobart. This one's the Open Data Institute for Queensland. Vic Roads is a really nice looking site. They also presented at Ozri. Vic Forest doesn't have much data in there, and Melbourne Water are just kind of getting their feet wet with ArcGIS Open Data. Anyhow, this is Launceston's public-facing website, and as a citizen I can jump into their maps and apps, which really just takes you to their ArcGIS Online homepage, so you can find out what data, take the bins out, or search for parks in your area. But you can also get access to the GIS data, and this will launch the Launceston ArcGIS Open Data site. And from here, I mean, most people, I'd imagine, would probably just start searching directly in the tab up here. So ArcGIS Open Data actually indexes all of your items, so you can easily find things just from the search bar. But you can also theme. I highly recommend theming your data sets into groups. So we can click on structures, of which there's just 3 results. Shows you the extent of those, so it's worth cleaning up your extents before publishing. Like if you've got a stray point over in Africa, make sure you've got rid of that. So let's have a look at the fence layer, which I know is a popular one from looking at the analytics. There's a lot of features here, so it bins them into what ArcGIS Open Data calls the geo hash. So you can actually zoom in and it kind of shows you where the majority of these features are. And once we get to a certain scale level, it actually pulls the data directly from their ArcGIS for server, the same data sets that they're using internally. You can query the features directly in here and get an actual distinct URL right down to the feature level. You can open up an ArcGIS, which is quite useful, so you can actually open it up in an ArcGIS online. Even with the free kind of viewer, you can still do a certain level of mashing up of other layers and visualizing it with heat maps and so forth. And even in ArcGIS Open Data, you can do a little bit of visualization. So you can say, all right, well, look, let me have a look at the different type of survey. So majority of well, it's a bit of a split between some of these were digitized and some of them were captured from photogrammetry. And yeah, you can switch the attributes out. You can also chart it out, so you can explore this yourself, but you can chart out bar charts and pie charts and histograms and scatter plots to look at the various attributes within these data sets. So this page here shows you a license, the various tags, metadata, so you can actually tie metadata into it. These tags here, perhaps need to mention this to Launceston, so they've got Launceston City Council as a tag for every single one of their data sets, and I understand why they've done that. The only problem with that is the related data sets can get a bit confused because these two kind of work hand in hand. So if they didn't have that, the related data sets would be a bit more accurate in terms of data sets that relate to fences, or basically tags that are common tags that are shared between them. We can jump into the table view and actually start to filter the data down, so we can filter by the map view, but more importantly we can filter by, let's say we're just interested in the fences that are made out of timber, and so you can see the map's kind of updating as well, and even survey dates, so you can, it's clever enough to kind of show you the date pickers. And the fact it says 810 there, that says to me that somewhere in the Launceston data they've got a typo. It should really be 1810, I'd imagine. So yeah, ArcGIS Open Data does kind of sometimes show some of your bad data, which wouldn't be too hard to fix. So let's say we're just looking at anything that's been surveyed in the last 15 years. Ooh. So right, we're down just to 9 records now. And as a developer, I can actually download that filtered data set as a spreadsheet, KML shapefile, but you can actually you can actually get access to an API endpoint as GeoJSON on GeoService. So instead of building the logic into your app to filter it down at that level, you've already done the filtering here. You can just then plonk that URL into your app. And you can also download the entire data set. And for the entire data set, you have the WMS and WFS capabilities that Launceston have exposed in their ArcGIS server. I think we'll leave it at that. All right. So these are the 4 generic steps on how to set up your open data site. You need to enable open data capabilities within your ArcGIS Online for Organization account. You need to set up your open data groups, and then you need to configure the look and style of your open data site, what capabilities you want to be enabled. And then when you're ready, pull the switch and turn it on to be public. From an architecture perspective, you can actually host all of your data in ArcGIS Online. So from desktop, you publish your shapefiles and whatever spatial data to ArcGIS Online and keep it up there. And then from there, you add it to your open data groups, which are added to your open data site. And then these endpoints are exposed via the open data site. And I think Vic Roads are currently doing this. I think Vic Roads are doing this. Hobart Department of Health are looking at this scenario. Melbourne Water. But the other approach is to make use of your ArcGIS for server. So need to point out that this ArcGIS for server does need to be publicly visible, either by reverse proxy or spinning up an EC2 instance on Amazon. And you can mix and match. So you can have some of your data on ArcGIS Online and some of your data coming out of ArcGIS for server. And the key difference to mention here is you're leveraging that extra OGC capabilities that ArcGIS server dishes out, i.e. WMS, WFS, and WCS if you've got imagery. So to enable open data, you log in as the administrator to ArcGIS Online, you click that open data button, and from here you can start jumping into configuring the site or setting up the open data groups. And we'll just have a quick look at how this works. So this is kind of a replica of the Launceston site that I've replicated in our organizational account. We'll jump into configuring the site. So just your usual stuff at the top, like a favicon, what icon do you actually want to see up in the top here. I've kept this kind of dummy site private for now. Perhaps I don't like this dark grey canvas base map. I want to change it to the list base map, which is the one they use down in Tasmania. Then it's on to setting up the capabilities for the site. So I've enabled all of these other than user sign-in. That's just to allow for people to make comments on your data sets. The data. So these are the open data groups that are in our Ozri Australia ArcGIS Online account. But because open data groups have to be public, I can search for anyone. So I could search for Launcestons, but just to make things, I guess, a bit weird, I'm going to search for the Vic Roads ones that are out there, and I can add them in. It doesn't make sense in this example, but you can add any of the open data groups that are out there to your open data site, which can be quite useful if you're trying to bring content in from multiple organizations. You can then check out a quick report of, are there any errors or warnings? So Vic Roads site right now has no errors. A series of warnings here just to sort of mention that some of the data sets have quite large numbers of features, which is fine. It's just a warning, and perhaps you want to assign a license. You're missing a license here. That's kind of key for open data. And then the last step, which is the bit where this and setting up which data you want to publish. This last step is the look and feel of your site. And you actually have a lot of capability here. So you can do things with a kind of what you see as what you get style configuration. So for example, we can add in what's called a widget. These widgets here can be kind of either text or images. You can plug in the various components here and move them around or resize things. So just literally shift these around or resize things just like this. But really, I think you'll get to a point where you actually need to jump in and you've got full control over the CSS. So you have more control here than you do in the ArcGIS Online account. It's just based on a bootstrap template. If you can find an internal member of staff that knows a bit of CSS and JavaScript, you can do quite a lot of styling to your site. And that applies for across the board. So you've got the HTML here you can get at, and even in the footer, you can jump into the HTML there. And then from there, you can just preview what it looks like. This looks a little bit different to the main Launceston website. Just kind of two key categories here. Some of the latest data sets. And you can see the Vic Roads data is kind of already flowing in here. Okay, so open data, it can come in many flavors. So are you happy with it being used for commercial purposes? A Creative Commons license provides a really clear understanding on how people can use your data, and the people out there will expect those Creative Commons licenses. And there is a Department of Finance Open Data Toolkit that really is useful as a link there. That has a lot more information and really on what guidance on what you should be doing. But I think they recommend that the Creative Commons attribution is recommended for pretty much all of government, unless you can provide a really good reason why you need more lockdown over the data. I'm not saying that you need to publish all of your data, but just if you're going to be publishing open data, it needs to have that Creative Commons license. I think for Victoria, they've actually upgraded it to the version 4 license. I think. So you can actually go to Creative Commons, and that link there will actually nothing to do with Ozri. It'll help you create a license, and you can grab the embed code that it creates for you, and you can just copy that and go into ArcGIS Online and go to the item and paste that into the access and use constraints for each of your services, and that then flows into this nice looking license here, where you can click on this and it'll actually open up the Creative Commons site with the license information. And you might be thinking, well, it's going to take me ages to do that one by one for each individual one. Just a quick plug for the GeoJob tools, the admin tools for ArcGIS Online, which are free for this purpose. You can apply it to all of your data sets, or all of the ones in your open data groups very easily. So you need to decide who in the organization will have access to the open data groups. So this is actually in the Launceston account. We're just plucking out a couple of key members in the organization that will have access to the open data group. Fairly straightforward, as everything else is in ArcGIS Online. But hopefully you're familiar with custom roles in ArcGIS Online, setting up really kind of finer grained privileges for your users. And you really want to avoid someone accidentally exposing some of your sensitive data. So you can create a custom role. So perhaps the person who's administering your open data site is different from the ArcGIS Online administrator. You can just give them that one capability. And also the capability to actually make groups available to open data. It's kind of like an extra setting on a group. But also they need to be able to perhaps create groups and make groups visible to public. So the open data group has to be made public, and that's all set up in custom roles. That's quite key to kind of implement an approval workflow, especially for the larger organizations out there. So a data curator might create a new group to store items for review. So the rest of the organization can go, all right, well look, we want to push these data sets into this group that we think should be made into open data. And then the data curator can actually periodically go into that group and review them and say, all right, well, let's have a look. Well, hang on, this data set, the thumbnail's not very good, or it's got some data that doesn't look too right, or the description needs a bit more detail and metadata. But if they are happy, they can then switch them from that group into the actual my organization's open data group that only they have access to, and then it becomes public, and they can then delete them out of the other review group. Hopefully that makes sense. Just means you kind of have one or two kind of key people in the organization that really push data into your open data site, but everyone else still has the ability to kind of suggest data that they want to be made available. So I can't emphasize this enough. Just ArcGIS Open Data is a good excuse to do a bit of spring cleaning. Things like field aliases, so if you just don't have any and you see all those kind of road underscore name, it's all uppercase, putting in some aliases to kind of have road name in kind of camel case is nice. Gaps in your data, so I understand that's unavoidable, like, if you've got a trees data set and only some of them have dates for how old they are or whatever, that's fine. I understand that you're going to have gaps. Enable those OGC capabilities if you're making use of ArcGIS Server. Tidy up the thumbnails, and again, this is where those admin tools for ArcGIS Online from GeoJob can really help do a lot of this tidying up without having to click lots of buttons. Consider for Victoria, you might want to use not only WGS Web Mercator, which is kind of the default for ArcGIS Open Data, but also serving it up in a consistent coordinate system like VicGrid, allowing the user to choose which one do you want. Now, I've already done another kind of demo on this, but at that time, it's earlier on in the blog, but that time we actually hadn't got it enabled. But ArcGIS Open Data dishes out a catalogue of what's in your ArcGIS Open Data site in this DCAT format. It's just a data catalogue format, which is kind kind of similar to XML and JSON. And that's so it can be harvested from other portals that are out there, be it Socrator or CCAN, which is the one that data.gov and data.gov.au and data.vic, that's also on CCAN. I think the Canberra one's on Socrator. Anyway, the importance of this is, so again, going back to the Open Data Toolkit, this is the doco on how to set up your ArcGIS Open Data site to be synced with data.gov.au. And in reality, most people, when they're looking for data, they're going to be going to data.gov.au and data.vic. So you need to log into the CCAN as your organization. And then from there, you can add your harvest source. And from there, you need to plug in a URL. And the URL you plug in is your ArcGIS Open Data site, the root directory /data.json. And this is kind of a catalog of your site. From there, you just specify that it's data.json, which is a standard format. And I think at the time of this video, data.gov.au will just review that, make sure all the mandatory fields have been filled in. And then I think they'll do it on a weekly kind of harvest to grab whatever's in ArcGIS and put it across. So this is City of Launceston's site. They've got 17 data sets in there, and they've synced it. They've synced it to data.gov.au. So you know, let's just jump in and look at this. This is data.gov.au, and let's have a look for Launceston. So this is, you know, how people might find your data. They search for the organisation, Launceston, and let's have a look at what we're looking at the fence, won't we? Or whatever. We'll look at the building footprints. So this, you're not pushing any of your data to ArcGIS Online. It's just the descriptions, the titles, the tags, all of those things you set up once in ArcGIS Online in your Open Data site. Well, not even in your Open Data site. You set it up in ArcGIS Online, or when you're publishing from desktop. All of that information gets carried across and pushed into the relevant CCAN instance. This point data.gov.au. But the data itself, like, you know, it's coming from the actual endpoint of the ArcGIS server that Launceston have. Or if I want the shapefile, for instance, you know, you can see that URL there. That is the ArcGIS Open Data site. So yeah, that's a pretty powerful capability. So the other one comes up is Google Analytics. So there is Activity Dashboard, and there is also some stats in ArcGIS Online that kind of give you some metrics from a kind of ArcGIS perspective on who's downloading what and how many. But I don't think there's anything wrong with me saying that Google Analytics is one of the better analytical platforms for really diving into who's looking at your website and how they're getting there. And it's quite easy to, this is Google Analytics, and check their doco for more info, but you can log into Google Analytics and put in the URL to your ArcGIS Open Data site, and you then get back a piece of tracking code. And if you copy this code and embed it into the footer of your ArcGIS Open Data site, it's important that it's your footer because it carries across into all of the other pages. Then, once you save that, then you can log into your Google Analytics dashboard and perhaps look at a particular time period, really kind of dive into seeing where the people are coming from. Are they new visitors? Are they returning visitors? Are they coming from just Google results? Are they coming from data.gov.au? Are they coming from this blog post? And what are they doing when they get there? So are they going to particular data sets? You can even jump into finding out, are they coming from mobile, or are they coming from iPhone or Android, or once they get to my site, how long do they spend on it? It really is some detailed analytics here. So we can see, as you'd expect, majority of them are coming from Australia, within the Tasmania state. I think you can even dive down further than the state level. So that's it. There's not going to be questions or discussion. If you want a hand in getting set up with ArcGIS Open Data, contact your account manager. It's a fairly straightforward process. I'm always keen. I'm a big fan of open data. But yeah, I really hope that this inspires you to get up and running.